Hi, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. I'm Anna Wells. With me today are Jeff Reinke and Nolan Beilstein. We are the editors of manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we have collectively a lot of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Our average is down a little bit this week because Nolan is on the newer end of our staff, but that's okay. That's new perspective.
I'm like halfway to double digits,
almost. Halfway
Pretty
to double
close.
digits, almost. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good, I would say.
Put that on the business card.
Yeah. Star, almost.
Almost.
So thanks for joining us. Every week we cover the 5 biggest stories in manufacturing and the implications that they have on the industry moving forward. If you could please subscribe to, and share the podcast. You could also help us out by leaving us a positive review on Apple Podcast or whatever other platform that you use to listen to the podcast. If you want to reach any of us, you can email us at Jeff, Anna, or Nolan at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. Our regular panelist, David, is gone this week. You could also reach him at David at IEN.com should you wish to. We are live every Thursday at 2-ish. We got close. If you subscribe to IEN at IEN Magazine on YouTube, you can get a notification for when we go live for next week and beyond. Before we get started, I'd like to refer to a quick word from our sponsor, who is Origami Risk. The fast-paced and ever-changing business environment creates new risks that come with damaging consequences for your organization if not approached with caution. So download 4 Strategic Risk Transformations, an ebook that will give you 4 transformative strategies to effectively manage risk for your organization. You can see the link below the player if you want to download that ebook. I think it's a great idea. Obviously, risk inherent in a lot of what's happening right now in manufacturing, so please check that out if you can. All right, guys, how's everyone feeling about getting started?
I'm excited for my quarterly appearance. Let's get going.
Nolan's had a lot of time off, but yeah.
I'm excited to make Nolan feel really nervous. It's going to be my job to sort of bully him a little bit on this. Use my approximately no star needed 2 decades of experience and got to come after him a little bit. I did warn him about this beforehand. So,
But little does Jeff know that I did LD debate in high school, so we're ready to go.
I mean, you did it, or did you you participated? Or
I advanced to the next round one time.
One time, okay, all right. This you're really setting the stage.
Buckle up
for an exciting event. All right, we're going to start with our 5th most popular story on our websites this week, which is titled "Trade War Devastates African Clothing Manufacturer." In the tiny African nation of Lesotho, clothing manufacturer Tzicc's business has dried up in the face of tariffs. The factory's 1,300 employees have made and exported sportswear to American stores, including JCPenney, Walmart, and Costco. And a few months ago, work was steady. Since Trump's sweeping tariffs were announced in April, however, Lesotho found itself topping the list with a rate of 50%, higher than that of China. Officials and economic experts said they were baffled. And as negotiations were said to be taking place globally, Lesotho's rate was changed to a temporary 10%. That was after April. For Tzicc and its customers, though, the threat and apparent singling out of Lesotho were enough. Management decided to rush to deliver pre-existing orders before tariffs resumed. But American buyers stopped placing new orders. With no work left, virtually all the factory's employees were sent home, potentially permanently. So last Friday, when tariff rates were updated for many, the Lesotho rate was put at 15%. Unfortunately, the industry says the damage has already been done. Tzicc's factory is being described as eerily quiet, and the threat of poverty looms in a country where most textile workers single-handedly support their families. Last year, Lesotho's overall unemployment rate was about 30%. The threat of tariffs has exacerbated the national unemployment troubles, prompting the government to declare a state of disaster this month. Jeff, I would like to hear your perspective on what's happening to and in the country of Lesotho and, the impact of these tariffs globally.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think with this one in particular, I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. I think, first of all, from just a very sort of pragmatic approach, I think a lot of people, when they saw this headline, didn't realize it was an African country that was impacted here. So when you do read through it and you see this, honestly, when you look at retail sales, we're actually rebounded a little bit in June. I think we're going to know a little bit better, a little more detail about the real impact of these tariffs on retail once we get through the back-to-school months. I think that's going to be very telling. But as of right now, I think the average U.S. consumer, not necessarily the buyers or the retailers, but the consumer doesn't really care. I mean, if they don't see a price increase, because right now these jobs, and that's one of the things too, and I think Nolan's going to talk about this, so I'll let him, but the whole thing with these tariffs is getting more jobs, more manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. These jobs aren't coming back to the U.S. This is going to Indonesia. This is going to Vietnam, China, wherever. So really there's just a lot of disruption that's hard to understand why it was necessary for these retailers especially to sort of reorganize their supply chains. So I don't really know what the impact is. Like, it doesn't feel like there was any impact here on me or on the U.S. It's just something was shifted. And the other part of that is if the retailers or the U.S. buyers were able to do this so quickly, it also tells me this was nothing but a price dynamic. There wasn't any organic quality or benefits in sourcing from Lesotho. Mm-hmm. They say that Lesotho? I don't want to butcher that.
That's what the YouTube video said
Lesotho.
5 minutes ago.
Yeah. We're experts now.
The gene capital of Africa. The other part of this, though, and I think this is the thing that gets overlooked a little bit, is the more we sort of weigh into these strategies where we don't care about some of these foreign markets, we almost paint ourselves into a corner. And we've heard of a lot of manufacturers where they start limiting their supply chain options. It doesn't always work out great, whether they're minimizing their customers, their sourcing, whatever the case is. And by not really caring about some of these smaller markets, like who even knew where this country was, I'll be honest, I didn't. Okay, I wouldn't have known if I saw this on a label in my pants where it was coming from. But we're also limiting a lot of the benefits that came from really having this global market opportunity, the whole globalization of sourcing and manufacturing, because we don't know what the future may hold. We've also seen global expansion create new opportunities, new markets, new levels of competition that have spurned different positive elements. Yes, we've lost some jobs, but in this particular instance, these textile jobs, they ain't coming back. Like, the toothpaste is out of the tube here. So I think when you look at all the different sort of confronting dynamics of this particular situation, it's hard to understand what the real benefit or impact is going to be. I don't other than for this country, obviously. But the other part of that is by opening up access to the U.S. market, it was almost a form of like foreign aid. You're giving them an opportunity to develop a financial infrastructure as opposed to continuing to just funnel dollars in to help this country, whether it's combat AIDS or set up other healthcare or social programs. So it kind of depends on your philosophy. It feels like a lot of disruption for disruption's sake in this instance. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the real impact is going to be beyond, unfortunately, these folks out of business and this plant shutting down.
Yeah, I think that you make an important point too around, and I think this is not maybe stressed enough, but there are very few exemptions for product categories that the U.S. does not produce cost effectively. Yeah. So denim, for example, you're right. You're not going to see denim factories popping up in response to this type of change. The supply chain just changes direction, but it's not coming here. It's not going to be a domestically produced product unless people want to pay a notably higher price for that, which we Americans have said over and over and over again they do not want to do.
That's the thing. There's like a dozen or more. In this case, we're talking about jeans, denim manufacturers in the U.S. There's some here. 95% of all jeans that are bought are made outside of the U.S.
Yep.
You're right. I mean, the decision's been made.
Yep. Nolan, what were your thoughts on this story?
Well, one of Jeff's closing statements was a disruption for disruption's sake. I mean, yeah, exactly. I don't understand what the U.S. and its manufacturing industry had to gain by this to prove that you could strong arm a country with 2 million people in it, because it was 50%, a bit more than China's. I know it's down to 15% now, but that was threatened back in April, so they had all that time where they're waiting for a new tariff, but it freaked them out so much that they tried to rush a bunch of deliveries. But then in that window, a lot of the U.S. companies canceled their orders, like you said. And so, when Trump was calling it a country no one has ever heard of, I'm a weird geography nerd sometimes, and I love the fact that it's a country that's completely landlocked by another country. It's just like right there in South Africa. It's very weird. But he doesn't know where it is. And then the administration was kind of just, we'll call it lying about Lesotho charging a 99% tariff on U.S. goods. And Lesotho said, we don't know where that number came from at all. So, yeah, back to the original point of just how is the U.S. better off for this? Was it just trying to bully a smaller nation? And how is that going to intimidate any manufacturing economies that are actually prevalent in the world?
Right. Yeah. And I think the other thing with the tariff rate, the discussion was in theory that this tariff decision was based on the trade deficit between the U.S. and Lesotho. So Lesotho's exports to the U.S. were about $240 million last year, mainly clothing, diamonds. Imports from the U.S. were only $2.8 million. So I think that's where they came up with the justification for this. But the reality is Lesotho just can't afford to import more U.S. products. It's just a complete disconnect between the two economies. So much of this population lives below the poverty line. So the trade minister even said the trade deficit that exists between Lesotho and the U.S. is a natural trade deficit that can happen when you have these types of disparities between two economies. It cannot be breached and certainly cannot be breached by imposing tariffs.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're looking at such a commodity item like textiles are. I mean, there's always going to be that. Plus, we're looking... These are retailers. These are folks that are responding to consumer demand and making their purchasing decisions in the products that they're putting on their shelves. So there's sort of this interwoven dynamic, and I think that's kind of what the trade minister was referencing there. There isn't a way to overcome this, and the only way to try to help a developing economy like this is to give them some source of revenue, to give them an opportunity to get into a market. And who knows? Now, maybe there was nothing down the line for us to benefit from working with Lesotho, but why shut that off? Why just eliminate the opportunity altogether? That's the only part I don't like.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So our fourth most popular story this week is a Tesla story. I feel like Tesla made the podcast a lot more often before, and things have been a little bit quiet the last couple months. But so the story is titled "Tesla's Brand Loyalty Has Fallen Dramatically." So there was a time not too long ago where Tesla did more repeat business with U.S. auto buyers than any other major car brand. In fact, in June of 2024, 73% of households that already owned a Tesla and were in the market for a new car purchased another Tesla. But since CEO Elon Musk took a very vocal political position, along with a divisive role in cutting government jobs through his brief service within the Trump administration, customer loyalty for Tesla has begun to wane. By March of 2025, Tesla brand loyalty had free fallen to 49.9%, which is below the industry average. Tesla's loyalty rate improved in May to 57.4% when Musk left his role at Doge. This leaves it above average, but still nearly 20 points lower than the high watermark. On par with Toyota, but lagging Ford and Chevrolet. S&P analyst Tom Libby told Reuters that Tesla's fall from grace was, quote, unprecedented, adding that he's never seen this rapid of a decline in such a short period of time. Musk has warned that the company could see some rough quarters continuing into 2026. I'd like to go to you first, Nolan, on this one. Tell me what you think about this Tesla story.
So I had three questions I wanted to pose to the panel.
Yeah, okay.
The first one was, is this the most power that consumers have ever displayed for a product or brand? Because we've seen protests and people swearing off certain companies, actors, whatever have you. Is this the most power that the consumers have ever shown?
In terms of like tanking a brand based on, personal feelings?
Yeah.
I mean, it is dramatic. It's got to be up there.
I mean, I think it's interesting because it's also the time period that we're living in right now. I mean, everything is social media-ized, and it's just blowing up more so. So I think there's more public sentiment that's made. It's louder, I guess is what I would say. So when you got something that's so polarizing like an Elon Musk and the way things are all politicized right now, I don't know if it's more power, but I think it's louder. I think the volume is definitely turned up. We'll see what kind of impact it has. But
and then to pose a biology metaphor, because I think in the article it's mentioned that Musk just got 96 million shares of restricted stock that's valued at about $29 billion, which one analyst thinks that's going to keep him at CEO till 2030. So that, to me, that kind of tells me that they trust the person that got him into it to get him out of it. Mm-hmm. So my biology metaphor question is Elon the host or the virus in this metaphor? Is Elon so synonymous with Tesla that the brand cannot exist without him.
So you think like Elon, like a little bit of Elon is going into the vaccine to like teach your body how to fight it? That's
Did Elon get injected into Tesla to ruin it, or is Tesla Elon? And if you kill the host, you cut off the head.
I don't think so. I think Tesla could survive with a strong leader, put it that way. Elon Musk has made himself, I don't know, I can't follow your biology analogy here, but he's made himself synonymous with the brand. I mean, by eliminating all the press contacts and public relations department and everything else, he's made that happen. So I think if he was removed, things would change in terms of the dynamic of the company, but that shouldn't impact the quality of the product. Would be my take.
And you think the quality is becoming an issue?
I do. I mean, when you look at the amount of recalls that Tesla has dealt with this calendar year, you're looking at over 400,000 vehicles between the Cybertrucks, the 3, and the Y. That's almost 10% of the total vehicles they have on the road. Now, that's not that big of a difference when you look at a Ford, a Chevy, a Toyota, whatever. They're all probably in about that same type of benchmark. But when you're looking at a smaller scale, and you're also looking at the way Tesla goes to market. If I have a bad experience at a car dealership, I'm not pissed at Nissan. I'm upset with that particular car dealership. With Tesla, who do you associate with when something goes bad? He's too synonymous. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, maybe I just kind of argued your point there, I guess. So I think that's why some of this comes to play here. So maybe it is that fact that he is just so closely associated with that brand that, again, you can't take it out on a local entity or representation of that. I'll go to a different Nissan dealership if I have a bad experience. In this case, you're right. You kind of think about that one place or that one source.
Well, my last thought was just, is Tesla just not cool enough anymore to survive this? Because it used to be it was the only show in town, and now there's other players. So if you're angering a bunch of your potential buyers, I mean, you no longer have that monopoly anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a fair point to bring up. I think that what we forget is how much brand equity Tesla developed on the coattails of Musk as the person. And so for that to go the other way is sort of reasonable, if that's if that's what's propelling that brand with the audience. I don't know.
I mean, the timing is interesting because it also comes at a point where we see all these other automakers scaling up their EV offerings. We knew that this competition was coming, and Tesla hasn't responded to it real great. With their new products that they come out with, I mean, the Cybertruck, all sorts of issues there. Mm-hmm. Almost 50,000 of them had to be recalled. When we look at some of the other things, what's the last new innovative product that we've seen from Tesla? It's not coming as quickly or in the volume as you do with other automakers. Right.
Well, and they're trying to rebrand as an autonomous taxi service, and they rolled out some non-exciting autonomous taxis in San Francisco that had human drivers. Yeah. So we're not there yet, but no, I mean, all good points. I do think that this will actually be referenced someday in like a textbook in terms of looking at what a true unforced error this was, to insert your brand into the middle of a very contentious debate when we know that America is very divided politically and aggressively so. And I do think that there is a level of arrogance in approaching that with the perspective of nothing bad will come out of this. I can do this and it will not reflect poorly on this company that I have cultivated. To me, that lack of awareness in leadership is perhaps the biggest risk for Tesla going forward. Because, there's all these other risks out there, declines in EV sales, higher input costs, tariffs, this determination that Tesla needs to do this entire rebrand. That's so much already to deal with. You got labor issues, you got a safety problem, you got a recall problem, quality issues. And then to throw this into it and just kind of like casually think that you can, as the figurehead of this brand, go about your business politically it seems very short-sighted, and to me surprising that is tolerated in an executive because it did have such a big impact. But just my perspective. All right. Moving on to our third most popular story on the website this week. Glass plant closure impacts 90 Oregon workers. Owens Brockway, a subsidiary of Ohio-based OI Glass Inc., operates a nearly 70-year-old glass manufacturing and recycling plant in Portland, Oregon's northeast side. The company informed state officials this week that it would close down the facility's bottle production line and lay off 90 workers in a bid to reduce, quote, redundant capacity. The move comes just over 2 years after the facility slashed what then amounted to about 70% of its workforce, blaming a downturn in the local wine industry. The facility has also run afoul of air quality regulators in recent decades over its glass melting furnaces, and it was forced to install new pollution controllers. Glass recycling is not expected to be impacted by this change. The Oregon Journalism Project reported that a nearby facility, also owned by OI, expects to continue to take in tens of millions of pounds of glass and turn it into new bottles. Nolan, glass manufacturing facility shuts down production. What do you think?
The first question I had when I finished reading this, and you mentioned that they want to reduce redundant capacity. Is it that, or are they trying to abandon a location that's become kind of a headache regulation-wise? I was going back to some previous articles this article was based on. And as you said, they cut 70% of the workforce in 2023. And that was about 2 years after this publication called Willamette Week reported that city officials got rid of proposed fees on carbon emissions that would have raised the facility's annual tax bill by $1 million. And that same year, they got into some trouble for allegedly breaking air pollution laws and were going to be fined $1 million. I think it was shortened to lowered to $600,000 or so. So is it more of a wine slowdown and reducing redundant capacity, or do they just not want to deal with it anymore being in Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point, and I think you could find yourself a victim of redundant capacity when you're in an area that is highly regulated, or maybe an area that has become more expensive. Yeah. I mean, we know the Portland area is very kind of a hot spot for real estate, and it's probably much more costly to operate there than somewhere else. We know that OI is a huge company. They probably have some other options where to set up. So I don't think you're wrong. Jeff, what do you think about the economics of glass production at this phase of history? Do you think that it makes sense to be adding or to be subtracting?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, there's obviously a lot more competition in the past. I mean, the use of plastic and aluminum for beverage packaging continues to increase every year. We're seeing, I think, a lot of stats I looked at between 10 to 12% year over year more or increased usage of those materials instead of glass. So there's definitely some market factors that are playing a part here. It was kind of interesting when you looked at this facility also trying to do more recycling because, man, it just shines a light on we're bad at recycling.
We are bad at it.
We're really bad. I mean, something as simple as glass, which you wouldn't think would be that difficult to segregate and recycle with all of the different, just like tubs you can throw stuff in. Like we were at the park last night playing softball. I mean, there's a blue bin that you can throw all the recyclable stuff into, and we're still bad at it and throwing it in wherever basically we can throw it away. I think recycling for glass is only like 40% of everything out there we actually recycle. Plastics is worse. Mm-hmm. So getting better there would definitely be helpful to a lot of companies who are working just in these materials overall. But I think Nolan made a great point in terms of the environmental issues that they were having with this plant. When you look at refurbishing, that's hard, that's expensive. You don't want to continue to pay fines. And with this company having facilities all over the country, all over the globe, it probably is pretty easy to absorb whatever production capacities they needed to. While dealing with some of the competitive issues from these other materials too. So kind of a lot of different factors that probably played a part in this. And if you're this company looking at 70 versus potentially larger numbers at other facilities, maybe this was just the least painful option for them to take.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the other thing to note as well is that OI Glass just released an earnings statement last week. They recorded a $5 million net loss for the second quarter, which was a reversal of a $57 million net income in the same period last year. They're down $20 million on the first half, again, compared to $129 million up year over year last year. So, this is really the playbook when that kind of stuff happens where you make cost cuts and then you kind of project confidence and try to prop up your stock price. And that is what happened. I mean,
100%.
So, unfortunately, some casualties here because of that. All right. Our second most popular story this week. Without new customers, Intel is, quote, likely to stop $28 billion Ohio project. In January of 2022, Intel unveiled plans to invest $28 billion in building 2 new chip factories in Licking County, Ohio, to boost production of its advanced semiconductors to serve both Intel projects and other end customers. At the time, it was dubbed the largest single private sector investment in Ohio history, but now its future may be in doubt. Multiple delays in the project have been announced, with the massive compound now set to open at least partially in 2030 or later. Recently, Intel said that it would further slow the pace of construction in Ohio to ensure spending is aligned with market demand. Intel's new CEO, Lip Bhutan, stressed the importance of finding external customers for the new plant's production capabilities, specifically a leading-edge chip node called A14 that Intel has in the works. Without major customers for A14, it's been reported that Intel said it would, quote, likely stop all work in Ohio. If that happened, Intel would lose out on hundreds of millions in incentives from both the state of Ohio and the federal government, which put up some cash in as part of the CHIPS Act. Not only that, outsourcing chip production instead of using its own foundry factories would leave Intel with few options and higher costs. The state of Ohio, too, will lose out on 3,000 jobs that Intel estimated would come along with the project should it not come to fruition. Jeff, what do you think is factoring in here? Intel gave a few reasons. Do you think there are others that they're slowing down on this project?
Yes, I do. And it's interesting because so many of these situations, it comes down to such a basic core element of a company, which is they got a sales problem. They have a big sales problem. Last couple of years, their sales are down like $20 billion. That's with a B. I mean, when you're falling behind in chips to that extent to your competition, you've got a product development problem and a sales problem. Now, they're blaming some of this on the fact that like computer sales have slowed down after the pandemic because people are back to work and all that. Okay. Your competitors are in that same place. What this really leads to is the fact that Intel did not keep up. They did not keep pace. When you look at the other chip makers, they did some things with artificial intelligence. They've done things with more dynamic computing power. Intel just didn't keep up. And in this particular space, if you're not 2 steps ahead, you're 2 steps behind. And that's really what has happened here. I think Intel really fell in love with their own brand, the legacy of it a little bit and where they stand in the marketplace. It was always about Intel Inside. That was like its own, just had a very strong connection, I think, with a lot of people. It was not just about the computer you were buying, but also recognizing that chip. Mm-hmm. A lot of other chip makers weren't worried about that. The consumer doesn't need to know me. They need to know that this product is running better than it would have before. When you look at AMD, I think another thing that played a role here is NVIDIA. Even though they're not direct competitors, NVIDIA is more of the GPU than the CPU that Intel does, although they do overlap and they do compete. I mean, NVIDIA is just getting all sorts of love and attention for what they're doing with AI and how they've expanded a lot of computing capabilities, especially in like gaming and graphic design. So Intel sort of being the little brother almost and sort of getting that treatment, especially from Wall Street. Yeah, they've got some things that they need to overcome. And even though you have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, their CEO is kind of getting a little bit of scrutiny.
I saw that just today, yeah.
Yeah, and President Trump wants him to resign because he's affiliated with all these other Chinese companies that are potentially attached to the government. I'm not as worried about that as the fact that if I want somebody to turn around my company, I don't want them to have interests in dozens of other companies. I don't care where they are or what they're associated with. I need them zeroed in on what I've got to do here to overcome a $20 billion sales deficit. Mm-hmm. So these are a lot of the things that are going on with Intel. It makes sense, quite honestly, that they would slow down a $28 billion facility because there's some uncertainty with their future. So you can get it, but it feels like it's all connected, and it comes back to the fact that better products. Mm-hmm. It's what it all comes down to.
Sure. Well, I think one of the big issues too here, obviously, Nolan, is there's just a lot of money in play, right? We had the CHIPS Act as part of this deal. That was a major motivator for a lot of companies to embark on these new greenfield projects. What do you think about the role the CHIPS Act has played in this project?
So I had a question after reading it and after Jeff's explanation. I think I kind of a better sense of an answer, but my initial thought was, is this a strategic pause that's just an internal company issue, or is this a concern that CHIPS Act incentives might not be enough to get these projects that have been promised completed and followed through on?
Well, I think it is a reality potentially that the remaining CHIPS Act funding will not come through for Intel. So they had made this, I think, $7.9 billion agreement with the Biden-Harris administration through the CHIPS Act. They were going to get that funding. So far, they received, I think, a little over $2 billion of that, paid before President Trump came on board. Now he's a notable CHIPS Act critic, as we know. And Intel has said that between April and July, they have submitted claims for $850 million of CHIPS Act funding. They have received none of it. They don't know if they're going to get any more based on the way things are playing out right now. So I do think that's a key element. It could be a strategic pause. I do think a lot of that is true. But this funding component is certainly not a done deal as it seemed like it maybe was initially.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that if I'm Intel, I kind of make a bigger deal out of that too. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that wasn't something that they brought up in any of their discussions about this. And I can understand steering away from the political dynamics, but man, if somebody owes me $850 million, I'm going to make a thing about it too. So it's kind of interesting that they have been walking sort of a tightrope here a little bit in terms of how they're handling this publicly.
Yeah. And a lot of the story too last year was about how long this CHIPS Act funding had been held up. Yeah. Do you remember that? It was just sort of in this holding pattern for a really long time as these projects were getting approved and the money was actually getting distributed. So you could see if you're Intel and you're just trying to make this work and then all these bumps in the road in terms of funding, and then also you have this problem trying to sell your manufacturing technology for this node A14, and thinking that, hey, we can't prop this thing up on our own just through our own use, through our foundry factories. We don't have enough business for that. So
are they not also cutting tens of thousands of jobs?
Yes, that is.
So another wrinkle.
Yep, there's a lot going on there.
Well, and just add another thing here. I mean, Trump came out today. He's putting a 100% tariff on computer chips. So that would also then tell Intel, hey, maybe we should do this. You know, we got to slow down because we have all these internal things going on. We don't know if we're going to get the funding for it. Or
we
wait. Have this huge tariff if we continue to make stuff someplace else.
Yeah, but then again, like the factory doesn't go online until 2030. So is any of this even matter then?
That could all be done and gone away.
It's so confusing. But I think that's also kind of like the theme of everything that's happened in the last 6 months in terms of policy is manufacturing companies don't know if it's going to be, a long-term thing. They don't know if it's going to be rescinded or changed. They don't know if, if these tariffs are for real or it's been a struggle, man. Anyway.
Anna's exhausted by all of it.
I am. And now I want to talk about hemp batteries. How's that sound, guys?
Smooth transition.
Yeah, I think so. All right, our top story of this week, titled Hemp Battery Factory Plans Go Up in Smoke in Wisconsin. In early 2023, Energizer announced plans to wind down operations at a pair of battery manufacturing plants in Wisconsin. But there was hope. A startup called Wisconsin Battery Company offered the promise to make hemp batteries in the state and create a landing spot for those displaced Energizer workers. The company and its CEO, Jeff Green, said it planned to use, quote, science and technology to bring AI, hemp carbon, zinc air rechargeable, and automation to the energy storage space. I have no idea what that means.
They're going to use science and technology.
And AI.
What's not to get?
Everything has AI
all the
now.
Keywords.
Yeah. Wisconsin Battery claimed that it was going to use hemp carbon to revolutionize standard household and hearing aid batteries, with aspirations of replacing lithium-ion batteries with a hemp carbon lithium battery that reportedly used less lithium and lasted up to 300% longer in charge and 800% longer in life. These are claims by the company. But recent reports suggest that Green is actually now MIA. According to LinkedIn, Green appears to have ended his run as the head of Wisconsin Battery as of June of 2025. The company's site is offline. Emails are bouncing back, and local officials say they haven't heard from him at all this year. Local news site The Telegraph Herald said that Green's biggest setback may have occurred when he was denied a $15 million grant from the DOE. At the time, he thought he could find private investors to make up for it, but it appears that those efforts came up short. Since then, the company has fallen completely off the radar, according to the director of Grant County, Wisconsin's Economic Development Corp. The only silver lining, it seems, is some infrastructure improvement work that was done in preparation for this plant, which appears to be unlikely to ever materialize. Jeff, what do you think about? I mean, is there anything else good to come out of this besides just some of this infrastructure work that was done?
I think what I took away from this is apparently like the folks that lost their jobs at those Energizer facilities, those plants, they found work. Like they're okay. It wasn't like they were waiting for this guy to be some sort of savior for the community. So there's a resiliency dynamic in play there, and I think speaks to a little bit of the manufacturing infrastructure of this part of the state as well. And I think I was also impressed with the fact that, and these are not big communities. When you look at where he was looking to potentially come in here, they're not like whining and crying and complaining and be like, we were counting on this guy for all this work. They're just like, this is weird, right? Like he should have talked to us before he just ghosted, but he didn't. I don't know. It's a strange dynamic, but when you look at this technology, what it is has the potential to offer is pretty amazing. By using these hemp carbon fibers instead of all of these rare earth materials and metals that we have to mine for and that are difficult to produce and manipulate during the process of creating these lithium-ion batteries, this could be pretty amazing. So you really hope this technology continues to be pushed forward, even though WinBet was kind of seen as one of the sort of early pushers of this technology. Like they were really out in front and really championing what it could be, because they're looking at it producing better range for electric vehicles, quicker charging times, all of that kind of stuff. And again, from a fibrous material as opposed to something you got to mine and fabricate. So very weird dynamic, but again, grateful that these communities have found a way to get through it. And they're just, I think more than anything else, like the rest of us, when you read the story, like, what's up? What happened with this guy?
Yeah.
Just very weird there. He couldn't get his grant, so he took his ball and went home.
Yeah, I guess so. Do you, Nolan, do you think that the communities here did enough due diligence when reviewing this plant project, or did it feel to you like it was maybe things were overlooked because they were relieved to see somebody trying to come in and fill this gap?
Yeah, the second one, maybe. And yeah, they come in and use like the buzzwords, science, technology, and AI, right? So maybe you just kind of trust someone who claims to be the savior. Is there like an algorithm that we can plug these pitches in that'll spew out and be like, no, this isn't going to happen? You can just forget about it right now. Like what are ways to spot the red flags in these pitches, and you can distinguish them between just hype and reality?
You maybe could use AI for that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, this be like a new AI platform, like a no BS AI type thing. Like just plugging in, it's like, no.
Nope, you're getting
I'm
housed
not
right now.
I'm not going to give you more details on this. Just no.
Yeah, I do hope that this technology, as you spoke to, finds its place somewhere else. It wasn't clear to me whether it was addressing any of the issues that lithium batteries have had with combustibility. But I do know that I read an interview with Jeff Green. He spoke about the history of the battery and some of the harmful side effects to both people and the environment, and some of the toxic materials that are being used in old formulas, even new formulas, and how this process gets around it. So hopefully somewhere it lands. I don't know. It's not going to be Jeff Green at the helm, I don't think. We don't know where he is. If you're watching this,
where are you?
Send up a flag.
Yeah, let us know. Contact us at
Nolan@IEN.com.
Yeah, I
send
want
it
to hear
to David. He would love to.
I want to hear your story.
Yes, we do want to know what you've been up to. All right. Before we get moving on to our In Case You Missed It, which is stories from the week that didn't get a lot of attention, but we think maybe should have, we're going to hear from our sponsor one more time, and that is Origami Risk. The fast-paced and ever-changing business environment creates new risks that come with damaging consequences for your organization if not approached with caution. So download 4 Strategic Risk Transformations, an ebook that will give you 4 transformative strategies to effectively manage risk for your organization. Check out the link below. Click to download. Please check it out. in case you missed it. Nolan, do you want to go first?
I can go first.
Let's do it.
So mine is from a Q&A that I published yesterday. It was sometime this week.
Okay.
But I called it From Family-Owned to Employee-Owned, a Machinery Manufacturer's 100-Year Journey. It was based on a Q&A I did with a man named Brian Baker. He's the CEO and president of Sentry Equipment based in Wisconsin. They have about 200 workers across their multiple facilities, I think 2 other states besides Wisconsin. And they're 100 years old this year. And next year will mark 40 years since they became employee-owned.
Oh.
So we kind of talked about the transition. They were family-owned from 1925 to 1986 when a member of the founding family decided to retire and transfer ownership to the employees. Baker said that the decision at the time was very bold, and then talked a little bit more about how the employee stock ownership plan they have is designed to make workers care more about the company, and the idea is that they'll work harder if they own a piece of it. And I was going to pose the question, with labor shortages, is this kind of an effective method to draw people in, perhaps?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I love ESOP. I mean, you're right. It does. When you have some skin in the game, I think it encourages people to not only from your recruiting, like get more people on board, but it encourages people to work harder. And to be honest, like, manufacturing and distribution, the industrial market is full of small companies that have been built by families. And there's like a shocking amount of succession planning barriers. Like, you have all kinds of people that are like, I'm ready to retire. I don't know how to get out of the business. I have no one to take it over. And you hate to see people shut it down or sell it to private equity just because they don't feel like they have another choice. ESOP is a great alternative to that. It really keeps the structure in place, and your employees are, benefiting immensely from that. So I think it's very cool.
Yeah, especially I've seen this in a lot of places where it's something where quality is especially important. It's maybe not the most glamorous of jobs. I'm thinking about a place that I actually visited out in California. They made storage racks for warehouses, essentially. So you're dealing with a lot of metal, so it's a very expensive commodity type item that's coming in, needs to be tracked well, taken care of. It's an art form when you look at welding and fabricating metal. But again, kind of dirty, kind of hard work, not real glamorous. But again, giving these folks this type of ownership in the company not only ensures them being there longer and retaining them, but having a bigger stake in what they're doing. So if you're doing the same thing, maybe day after day, it does keep you, I think, kept their employees much more focused and much more in the game. So I think it's a hugely powerful tool in terms of retaining and recruiting better employees.
Well, it made me think about my Gen Z and manufacturing series where I talk about what is going to inspire young people to get into this. Do you think that young people want to have a piece of their company, or do you think that's too much responsibility and they'd rather just come to work and then go home and keep it out of mind?
I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. I can see where I'm technically a little older than Gen Z, but I can see where that generation would be inspired by that. I don't think it would matter to me either way. Mm-hmm. But
you always hear about how Gen Z wants to have a seat at the table and they want to feel like their work is purpose-driven. To me, this really fits the bill. But
yeah, I mean, I just look at my daughters. I mean, they're a little bit younger than the Gen Z, I think, time frame. I'm not exactly clear on that, but I just know from just their summer jobs, if they do have a greater say in what's going on or more stock in what they're doing, they're definitely much more engaged. They feel more connected to it. They're going to perform better. A lot of little things is what I always see in terms of, as opposed to being there at 8:01, you're there at 7:55, things like that. So I do feel like this is a great carrot to put out there for folks.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
Yeah, I grabbed a story off of Medical Design Development, talking about SetPoint Medical, and basically they have come up with a injectable, it's a neuroimmune modulation device for the treatment of adults living with moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis, who can't really handle or tolerate a lot of the existing therapies that are biological or targeted synthetic disease modifying drugs. So basically, if pharmaceuticals aren't working, this injectable is something or that they could, it's an implantable, not injectable, an implantable integrated neurostimulation device that's designed to deliver electrical stimulation to the vagus nerve once daily. It activates the body's innate anti-inflammatory and immune restorative pathways. So I know that's a lot of words. Basically, what it comes down to is if you've been around anybody with either rheumatoid arthritis or MS, anything like that, that really doesn't have the right, their body doesn't work in the right way in terms of fighting off immune issues. Okay. It really strengthens that. So if the drugs don't work, and they can basically put this implantable in there to help improve quality of life on a pretty sizable level. I think it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's a very small thing when they look at the picture of it. I think this type of device treatment and this type of approach to a lot of different medical ailments is kind of amazing to me, because we don't see pharmaceutical research and development going away. There's not less of it. We're still developing that side of it. But then if we can supplement that with science and technology.
I'm paying attention now.
Yeah, keywords. With science and technology, I think that's just another way to help treat these and give it another option to a lot of folks who the drugs aren't working. Something like this possibly could. It's very minimally invasive sort of approach as well. I just think it's kind of amazing. Again, my mom deals with rheumatoid arthritis. She has her entire life. So something like this that is now FDA approved and is sort of getting out more into mainstream medical could be amazing. Also knowing people who are, either diagnosed with or suffering from multiple sclerosis, this is another thing that could definitely impact their quality of life and really help their body just function more normally. So these types of developments I think are really cool. And a lot of times we come out with, and they're sort of broad in terms of what they might be able to do. This is much more specific, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, when you look at some of the work that neurostimulation type products are doing in medical and the heavy lifting that they've been able to do to deal with things like Parkinson's, and it's just my understanding of autoimmune conditions is that if you have one, you're more likely to have another. It makes sense that not all conventional medicine is going to work for everybody. So to see, this continuing to develop in these other ways is pretty interesting. Nolan, what did you think?
Yeah, and you said it's an implantable treatment.
Right. Yeah.
It seems like implants is a word I keep seeing among medical treatments and research. Is like, I just hope that is it scalable for manufacturing purpose? Will it be able to be more mainstream, or is it still kind of in the development for very niche area?
I think the fact that with Sendpoint Medical here getting their FDA approval, that's going to allow them to scale up, do more application-specific testing so they can sort of get the sweet spot of the right patient that this will work for. But the fact that they've already got specific diseases or conditions that they're targeting with it, I think goes a long way towards, again, justifying that manufacturing scale up. A little bit less risk there, and hopefully we can get it out and more people have a chance to at least try it, if the drugs aren't working.
For sure. All right. My In Case You Missed It this week is about Texas A&M and DARPA working together on a testbed to use autonomy to fight wildfires. So DARPA is partnering with Texas A&M to advance capabilities for autonomous wildland firefighting. The initiative is tapping technology that's been developed under a program called Alias, which has successfully designed, developed, and demonstrated the ability to actually retrofit existing aircraft to enable fully autonomous flight. Stuart Young, who's the DARPA program manager for Alias, said, "Working together with Texas, we have an opportunity to use autonomous helicopters to completely change the conversation around wildfires, from containing them to extinguishing them. The partnership has helped to rapidly field new technology, ensuring impact in this application, but also many others. They're looking at these tools, and once they're validated, they believe they could be adapted to military or other search and rescue applications, disaster response. According to Stuart Young, he says, Alias helps us with a manpower problem since it addresses and augments the pilot availability issues. It helps us with safety because we can fly in more dangerous conditions. It helps us with throughput because we can get more water on fires by fighting them 24/7, including when they're most vulnerable. And the sensors can see through smoke and darkness, so we can fight fires at night."
Wow.
Yeah. So, I picked this for obvious reasons. I just think, we hear more and more about tech development around wildfire fighting and mitigation of those. I mean, every single day this summer, we're thinking about this. I mean, we live in the Midwest. We've had a ton of air quality issues from smoke from the Canadian wildfires. People in California had a super rough year. I mean, there's just it's something that I think is a critical issue to address right now, and to see them be able to kind of expedite some of the technology by working together with Texas to deploy this in the field is pretty exciting. So, Jeff, what did you think about this story?
No, very cool. And this is the second straight week we've had a story, in case you missed it, from Texas A&M. We did the AgriHoods last week, and now this one. No, I think this is amazing, especially when you think about whenever there's news coverage about fighting these fires, it's always how exhausted all of the firefighters are and the pilots are. So being able to leverage autonomous technology to, like you said, 24/7, just keep hitting these fires with everything we need to, obviously eliminating human risk from the equation as well, and allowing the machines to get closer to the fires and potentially have a bigger impact on them. Being able to sense and see things better than the human eye would in delivering what we need to fight the fires. No, I think this is just a really cool program, great story, and also an awesome nickname, like Alias. Like
Alias, why not?
I thought about the Jennifer Garner show right away.
I think they must kind of fool with the words a little bit to make it into a cool acronym. I mean,
definitely.
I know I would, yeah.
DARPA is pretty good at this stuff. They know they've got the marketing part of this down as well.
They've done this before. Nolan, you're from Texas.
Yeah.
What is your unique Texan perspective on this program?
Well, my mind actually shot up to Montana, where my cousin's husband flies helicopters. I think he primarily transfers lumber. Sorry, Will, might be mislabeling your job, but I think he has been called on to help with wildfire fighting, by flying a helicopter and helping fight wildfires. So I'd be interested to hear what he thought about this, because we see stuff about trying to take the human part out of dangerous tasks. Like they got robots going into buildings to check weak points if it's going to collapse and search for people. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if he would feel cheated, or if he's like, yeah, this is fine. I don't need to fly over a wildfire anymore.
Well, please ask him to weigh in. All right. Well, before we get out of here, let's look at our final thoughts. Nolan, do you want to go first? What is your final thought before we go?
Do I have one?
Here, I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Jeff, what is your final thought?
Well, as you guys know, I bought a boat recently.
Yes.
A small fishing boat, nothing real elaborate or anything.
It's not a yacht.
It is not a yacht,
Okay.
but it'll get me where I need to go. Maybe even producer Eric once in a while. Yeah. But I was reminded of some of my own advice that I've actually expressed on this podcast about paying attention to the little things, because I took it out, got out on the water for the first time this weekend. And the two of the things that I wanted on the boat is I wanted a fish finder, just so I can see depth and water temperature and stuff like that. And also a trolling motor, just a very basic trolling motor. So I'm trying both of these things out when I get out on the water. The depth finder doesn't turn on. Like, it doesn't actually light up on the screen.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, all right, I got to figure something else. Probably with the wiring. I'll get into that when we get off the water. Then I go to try the trolling motor, and I get on there, and it's turning, but the rotor for the motor is not actually going. So it can direct, but it's not actually propelling. So I'm like, all right, well, that's probably wiring too. Well, I get out of the boat, and I realize that the trolling motor has a switch.
Oh,
that you just need to look at
on
and actually turn it on.
Yeah.
And with the depth finder, it was just like a loose connection. I just needed to basically seriously unplug it and plug it back in. So all those times that I've told people, attention to the little things.
Yeah, detail.
Just all that kind of stuff, blocking and tackling. I needed to take a little bit of my own advice in that moment, and I could have probably had a lot more enjoyment just trying everything out on the water, but did figure it out, thankfully, and lesson learned.
So
minor frustration.
You've experienced half of the best days of boat owning, I hear, because aren't the two best days when you buy it and then sell it? You're halfway through.
Well, I bought this, and my wife has been amazing, been very patient and very cool with me going through this. But I told her right up front, if I use this a minimal amount of times per year, I'm going to be happy with that. I don't want to be the guy who's like, got a boat, got to get out and use it. It's when I want to. So, and that's why, a lot of different parameters were involved. So I hope I'm not that guy, Nolan. I really am optimistic I won't be.
All right. Well, my final thought this week is so my kids are getting ready for, school starting in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And
My goodness, already?
I know, crazy. Well, after Labor Day, but we're starting to prepare with the back to school lists and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Jeff, I kind of want your input on this because you have older kids. But keep in mind that my oldest child is 10. For the first time ever in life.
You were going to have so many stories on this podcast coming up, man.
For the first time ever in life, one of my kids asked for a specific brand of water bottle. We have never been brand specific ever. I've never gotten that as a request in my life. And I feel like, is this the floodgates where things start to get very expensive for me? I mean, they're already expensive. I have 3 kids, but like...
The key here is a unified front.
Yeah.
With you and your husband.
Yep.
Because, I was divorced, so their mom just kind of like went with the flow. And I was the one going, what?
But why?
Why are we, what are we doing here? So there was conflict there. So I think the kids kind of knew where to take those requests to get, but no, it does not stop, number one. It only gets worse.
Yeah.
But if you cut it off right now, I think it becomes much more manageable down the road. So you, like I said, you and Chris just need to get on the same page.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and 2 out of 3 of my kids are very, very likely to lose whatever it is. Whatever it is, doesn't matter what. And then the one who asked me for a $30 water bottle is like the responsible one. So I'm like, well.
Man, are kids carrying water bottles around school now? I don't think I ever drank water.
No,
like
we
in
didn't
middle
either.
school
We
and
didn't.
high
No,
school.
it was not like considered a need at that time. But
it is
now
100% a thing. Like even like in high school, taking it to class, having the water bottle in class, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Very much a thing.
So
Definitely didn't do that. I was gonna.
Do you feel old? No, do you feel old now?
I drink a lot of water now, but then I just didn't. I didn't even think about it.
No. Who needs it?
But,
so you're actually at an age now you can say, when I was a kid.
back in my day, we
We
didn't
had a
drink
water fountain. That was fine.
But Anna, when you said your oldest daughter is 10 now, that I just remembered that the first time I met her was like when I started working here, and I asked her how old she was, and she said 6. Like, man, that's over halfway to 10. And you said, you're never going to be 10. Here we are.
I know. She's my baby, but she's like 5'2" now. So yeah. All right, Nolan, what is your final thought? Did I give you enough time?
I did come up with something. So I am moving in a week, and I only lived in this place for a year. But when I moved in, some of my generous coworkers came to help me because my apartment is like a reverse loft where I have my bedroom downstairs, and there's this really tight spiral staircase, and we were trying to get a desk downstairs, and we got it. Almost decapitated Devin.
Oof.
And now I got to get it back upstairs.
Oh, no.
So, are we going to try that again? Am I going to take it apart? We'll see. Who
We're
knows?
busy.
Did Devin volunteer again, or
He seemed enthused about getting back in there.
all right?
See, that is one of the things when you get to, I'm not going to lump Anna in this, but you get to my age, you hire guys. That is one of the best things about being old.
Oh, I'm just never moving again.
Well, there's that.
That's
That's
my plan.
another
Yeah.
fair approach. But when everybody asks me, but we're thinking about moving. I'm like, I'll pay to hire the guy.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore.
No. Not worth it. All right. Well, I hope that you get through that scenario. You'll have to keep
No
us updated.
casualties.
With no
hopefully.
loss of limbs.
Yes, exactly. Or heads. All right. That wraps it up for us this week. Before we go, can you just a reminder to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And you can email us at Jeff, Nolan, or Anna at in.com if you took issue with anything that we said today. With email the podcast to the subject line. And really, if you took issue with it, you should send that feedback to David
He
at
likes
in.com.
that. He appreciates that.
He is just spending.
He just rolls with it.
He's spending a long weekend across in the East Coast. He would love to get your emails, especially the complaints. You can subscribe to our daily and weekly e-newsletters on our websites, in.com. Check us out. Thanks again for joining us this week. And to our panel, Jeff, Nolan. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.